set for UFC on ESPN Plus number 31. Crazy that we're already there. And our second fight on the prelims, really interesting fight at 135 pounds between Hunter Azure and Brian Kelleher. And Matt, I'm going to start this one off by saying that, yes, Brian Kelleher has a lot of experience, both on the regional scene and on the main stage. I mean, this is a guy that fought Jimmy Rivera back in 2013 with Bellator. He has 2 wins over Julio Arce, who I definitely hold in really high regard. And yeah, I mean, his UFC record might not be the best. It's 4-3, but he's definitely fought really good competition so far. I mean, before his last fight, which was a great win, a guillotine win over Ode Osborne, listen, the last 2 fights before that lost to Montel Jackson and John Lineker, who are, again, 2 guys that we definitely hold in very high regard. Now he's going to be taking on a really tough test, an undefeated Hunter Azure. I mean, this is a guy who's won 15 fights in a row going back to his amateur days, 7 and then 8 as a pro. And then if you look at the gym that he's coming from, I mean, Fight Ready in the MMA Lab, those are 2 of Arizona's premier spots to go. I mean, when I think of gyms like that, I think of guys like Benson Henderson really leading the charge, but also another Arizona guy in Henry Cejudo as well, who's definitely going to be featured prominently over the next couple of weeks for good or bad reasons with UFC 249. What do you make of this fight? I think it's a really good one.
I do too, but I think it's really interesting when you look at sort of the opponents both guys have had. Hunter Azure in his last fight beat Brad Katona, and a guy who, he might not do everything similar to Brian Kelleher, but stylistically, they are quite similar. And I mean, Hunter Azure kind of beat the brakes off him. Not to say Brian Kelleher doesn't have positions that he could find himself in. He's got a really good guillotine choke. He's got an amazing chin, so I really wouldn't bet that he's going to get knocked out. I think it's going to be a really entertaining fight, but I just think that the younger guy in Azure has a lot more to give, and I think he has a higher ceiling overall. And even at this point, both guys' careers, like you said, Brian Kelleher, when he does fight that sort of upper echelon guy, and I realize John Lineker's not in the UFC anymore, but still, at one point, John Lineker was top 5 for about 3 years. Brian Kelleher doesn't always beat those guys. Hunter Azure isn't that guy just yet, but I do think with his skill set, if he does continue to improve, I'm not going to stand here and say that he's going to main event a bunch of shows, he's going to win the title, but I do think he is going to be a guy in that top 15 relatively soon, so I'm picking Azure.
And I mean, this is a really good fight and a good test for both guys. If Azure loses to Brian Kelleher, you know, no big deal. You get back on the horse and continue your winning ways. And for Brian Kelleher, a really tough test and an up-and-coming prospect. In terms of the odds, again, we're going off of fightodds.io because Best Fight Odds doesn't really have a lot of the odds for this card yet. Azure minus 175 favorite. Brian Kelleher coming in as a plus 145 underdog. Over in Tapology at 151 votes. 70% are going with Hunter Azure. 94% predicting a decision. I'm going to agree with the odds makers and the crowd there in their prediction.
Oh, Hunter, it's hard to finish a guy like Brian Kelleher, but I do think Azure is just sort of a more well-rounded martial artist. So yeah, I very much understand why 94% of that 70 think.
Should be a very interesting fight. You're going to want to stay locked in with Fight Night picks. We got picks for UFC 249, UFC on ESPN Plus 31, and our third card in 8 days. See, it's already difficult with Fight Night picks to stay locked in with all that content, Matt. As we always say, with Fight Night picks, let's get into it.